Oh, shalom, my friends. Shalom, my enemies. This is your old pal, Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. And what a delight it is for me to be chatting with a poet. We've got a lot of writers on the show, right? They're a dime a dozen, but poets are like 2 dimes a dozen because you don't get a lot of people doing that, at least semi or even professionally. She is an educator. She is a doctor which if we can look at this mole on my neck, I'm a little worried about that, but we'll do it. Her name is DEVON Fulford, and she is known to the producer of this program, Dave, because she used to teach at the same university where he used to teach. She's moved on to bigger and better things. He's here doing this shit. But DEVON Fulford is here in the neighborhood with us. Shalom, DEVON!
Thank you so much.
How you doing? It's summertime. You mentioned off the air that you're in this lovely old house in Colorado, yes?
In Loveland, yep.
But it has one problem. What is the problem?
The problem is that we do not have central air conditioning in this house.
Oh, you don't have central air, but you have conditioners, don't you?
No, we have a whole house fan and we have just regular fans, and we have like an evaporative cooler that we use in the window in the bedroom.
All right.
But it's a very large house. It's a 2-story house. It was originally built in 1940 with a big update to it in 1990. So it's very peculiar. It's kind of a house of
Oh, you froze.
together. And honestly, that's why we chose it. It's not a very standard run-of-the-mill sort of space, but it is very, very warm right now in the summertime.
So would it kill you to have one room where you get a Fedders 5,000 BTU something something? I mean, what would be so terrible?
That's sort of what we have in the bedroom, but we're looking at maybe upgrading. It's an evaporative cooler, and it drains out. I mean, it's got an attachment that connects to the window, and then it drains water. And for some reason, last year, the humidity level or something in the house, there was a ridiculous amount of water coming out of the thing. So I think we need something new
Yeah,
this year.
definitely. I mean, the thing with the tube and the draining of the water, it's like my prostate. It needs to be looked at. Anywho, I'm hoping this will go okay because you're sometimes freezing a little bit with your Zoom thing
Oh,
because,
okay.
you're all the way out there in the boonies of Colorado, but we're going to make the best of it. If it stops, we may have to stop and start and whatever. But so far, we're okay. Anywho, so you are now teaching at Colorado State University. You made a leap from UNC to CSU. What are you doing there? You're like a head of something and faculty director. What are you doing there?
I moved over from UNC to CSU in 2018, and I've been in the English department teaching since 2018. As of July 1st, actually, I have a new role as assistant teaching professor, and I am also the director. This is also another brand new role for me. I'm the faculty director for the Literacy Through Prose and Poetry program, which is a wonderful program where we actually get our grad students who are pursuing a master's degree, mostly in fine arts and creative writing, but also composition students, or we also serve English education students in the department. So really anybody who's interested, we pair them up with a local school in Fort Collins, and they go and actually teach poetry to young folks in the community. So it's pretty exciting. I'm very grateful to have been chosen to take this program over for
Now,
the next.
are young people, back in the day, they would have been really resistant in poetry, but since rap and hip hop and trip hop and polka have taken that all over, are they much more like, oh, poetry is just like, music without the music?
Yeah, I think so. I don't have a lot of experience actually teaching young people. When I started teaching at all, I was teaching at a treatment facility, and it was mostly high school age students. And I could teach them poetry all day, every day because of rap. I mean, they had such a connection to it because 90% of them wanted to be rap artists. And then, I mean, I think for that group of kids, they found a real connection to expressing really hard, dark stuff through poetry, and it worked really well for them.
Is that what got you? I mean, you were pre-rap when I'm sure you first got into, but what got you into poetry, especially as opposed to going to be a writer to short fiction or other things?
Yeah, I've been writing my entire life. It is the one thing that I always hope to do with my life is be able to professionally and traditionally publish books. When I first I did my undergrad at CSU many years ago, and I studied creative writing, but I did focus in fiction. I thought that was where I wanted to be at the time. And then a few years later, I did my master's in creative writing at the University of Denver. And at that time, I shifted to poetry entirely. So I studied under Joseph Hutchinson, who was a former poet laureate of Colorado. And he was amazing and wonderful and super supportive of what I was doing. And I haven't written fiction in many years now. It's just the shift happened and I've never gone back.
Well, what is it about poetry that speaks to you, that calls to you as both a reader and a creator?
I think the freedom. I think for me, I'm very nonconformist, non-traditional. I don't necessarily adhere to the old school ideas of rhyming and verse and all the things that I kind of feel like have always kept poetry at a distance from people. In the academy in particular, students don't have a great interest in poetry because there's gatekeeping, right? It's like, oh, I can't understand that. It's too lofty. It's too above my head. I'm not going to get it. Therefore, I won't get anything out of it. So thankfully, I think in the last, I would say 15, 20 years probably, there's been this enormous surgence of spoken word poetry that has become so popular. It's become a complete art form to itself. I don't do it myself, but I have great respect for spoken word poets. And I feel like that's opened the door to younger people, to people who don't necessarily have an academic background in studying writing and who are just really passionate about creating art in a different sort of way. So I love that.
Well, who are the poets that you appreciated when you first started getting into the form, even back when you were writing fiction? Who called to you when you read them?
I, as a young writer, I really connected with the beat poets. Allen Ginsberg's Howl is one of my still all-time favorite poems ever. And actually, when I was working at that treatment facility, I gave those students Howl and I had them paraphrase it. And I mean, not the entire thing, it's a monstrous poem, but like the first good chunk of it, we all read it together and we talked about it. And then they all picked parts of it and they rewrote the sections as applicable to their own life. But I feel like the freedom and the nonconformity, the topics that were always approached by beat poets kind of align with how I like to write. I was also really into the punk rock music scene as a young person, which has really stuck with me. It's not something that I got old and got over, as a lot of people claim that you will. It wasn't just a young person thing for me. And it's much more of an identity. It's a mindset more than like a fashion trend for me. And I definitely see a lot of that kind of thumbing my nose at the system, talking about, I always like to say I like to talk about topics that make people squirm, things that are a little bit uncomfortable in American society in particular. So things like death and sex, I like to write about those things and I like to talk to my students about those things because
Whoa.
they're quite taboo.
I hope you tell them not to have sex with dead people. This is,
Always.
I mean,
That's the
you
first
can
thing.
complete them, but not that way. It's not a good thing. I've had parishioners try it. They
Oh,
get stuck. It's bad. It's just
very
plain bad. Speaking of the whole punk ethos, if you don't mind my using the word ethos, even though I don't know what it means, does that explain all the tattoos? You'd have a lot of artwork on the parts of your body we can and can't see. What
I
was
do.
the deal with the taggy things?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's something that kind of can be inspired by alternative sorts of scenes, which is different now because absolutely every young person has tattoos. I didn't immediately start. You can see some of my ink there. I didn't immediately start getting tattooed as a young person. I actually waited until I was in my mid-20s before I started getting tattooed. I don't know. I mean, I think there's an obvious connection. It's a look that I've always liked. I liked seeing art on people's bodies, and I was able to connect with an artist in Fort Collins who I knew him before he was ever an artist, and now he worked his way up through being an apprentice and being an artist and putting in his time, and now he owns one of the two. Well, actually, I'm not even sure they're both still open, but historically it was one of the two oldest shops in Fort Collins. So
So
he's
are
one.
the ones who have, are they ornamental or are there any really meaningful, like, oh, this
Oh,
is
they're
mom or
all
something?
meaningful. They're
Oh,
all
yeah.
meaningful. Every single one has a story. Yeah, and it's neat to be able to work with my artist because I have absolutely no drawing artistic talent whatsoever. My art is very much words, not pictures. So I am able just to convey an idea of what I want, and he just draws it. And I have never once had him draw something that I didn't love and didn't approve to put on my body. So it's interesting having that kind of a trusting relationship with someone.
But are you going to run out of space? The thing is, I mean, are there more coming or are you done? Because after start, it's going to have to be your forehead or like under your nostrils or something.
Yeah, nothing on my face and neck right now. I actually do still have quite a bit of bare skin at the moment. I don't have any current plans for anything, but that definitely doesn't mean I'm done.
Now, going back to your college years and things like that, you mentioned the master's, you mentioned what I'm curious, what was your dissertation on? Because you are a doctor, not an MD kind of doctor, which is problematic because I put aside several appointments today in order
Very
to be
sorry.
examined. But what did you write about for your big ass, like, give me my doctorate, please?
Yes. So I did what was called a narrative inquiry study on the cultivation of empathy amongst students in the humanities classroom. So I studied empathy, where it comes from, why we have it, um, and how to bolster it, how to make it better, make it more useful, specifically to students. So my research participants were students, and the narrative inquiry model uses stories as the data. So I interviewed all these students and essentially took their stories and turned them into my dissertation and my research that I published.
So you were looking for examples of empathy in the things that they were writing, or no?
More some of what they were writing, but more about how they have relationships, both with their instructor and with each other in the writing in the humanities classroom specifically. I
Hmm.
think that for us at CSU, I know this isn't universal, but it's pretty similar in a lot of places. Our writing courses are mostly capped at 24 students, so it's very small. We always have small classes, which is really nice. Um, but it kind of demands community. You have to be able to have some kind of community and set it up and figure out how it's all going to work. So I studied the ways that students utilize things like office hours, how they build relationships when they are asked to do workshops in the class, all kinds of things like that.
What did you conclude?
I concluded that the instructor in the classroom is pivotal in cultivating empathy amongst the students. And I anticipated that outcome, obviously, but it was amazing to have the data to support that outcome after it was all said and done.
Yeah, I have to tell Dave to stop smacking his kids around. It's not working. He tried it with a belt. He tried burning them with a hot iron. There've got to
That's
be some other ways. It's just it isn't. I mean, it's getting the work done quickly, but not
yes,
well. Yeah.
not well. No.
Speaking of getting work done quickly and well, you've been teaching for a few years now. As a matter, you made that shift in 2018. Have students changed over the course of not only your teaching, but pre and post pandemic?
100%. Yeah, massively big changes. I mean, the pandemic changed everything for everyone in various ways. I would say that the first couple years coming out of the pandemic, it kind of was where the students were in high school when the pandemic happened, that they didn't really get to complete their high school experience. And so we were finding that a lot of students came to college kind of expecting the same, like, oh, we're just going to get passed through. And that was very challenging. We definitely felt like there was a lot more, I don't want to say hand holding, but a lot more support needed for students immediately post pandemic. I kind of feel like we're coming out of that now. And it's kind of, to me, it feels like it's sort of leveling off. But yeah, I feel like there was kind of almost like a learned helplessness among students that we had to kind of reframe the way we were teaching to go back and really get back to basics, even with some of the more advanced students, which I wasn't anticipating.
Without dumbing down the curriculum, what did you actually do?
Things like, so obviously most of the students had to go to a fully remote setting, which made you think they would be very familiar with, like Zoom, for instance, or the Canvas learning management platform that we use. And no, not at all. It was so much more about like, I need to walk you through these very seemingly simple and self-explanatory steps to come to a basic level of understandings, things that we would have taken for granted before the pandemic that students weren't getting. And we were going, what's going on? Why is this happening? And then kind of collectively.
I've seen them in the cafeteria holding a spoon upside down and then trying to have soup. And I will have to go to them, and I will, and I'll be gentle about it. But I'll put it's problematic. They're strange. Can I ask, what is your favorite? Not in terms of students, but I assume you still have to teach like basic English, but what's like a course that because of the level you're at, you get to teach?
My favorite course I've gotten to teach, and I'm really fortunate because I'm going into my third consecutive semester of teaching this class, which doesn't often happen for folks in my position. It's an upper division writing course, but it's specific to students in the arts and humanities, and so it's so much fun. I've gotten really into experiential learning in the last year. And this is so obnoxious, and feel free to make fun of me for this, Rabbi, but I'm actually starting another PhD program. Like I just started on July 1st.
Oh, you're not getting one set up there. You're going for another PhD?
Yeah.
In what?
Creative writing.
All right, I'm going to make fun of you. Why are you doing this? You're a doctor already. You should be doing Fulbrights and full not so brights. What's going on?
So I'm not tenured, and that means that my job is precarious, and I don't get to always teach the classes I want to. And within the academy, it's about the credentials you have and not necessarily how much you're publishing, which
really
that feels very backward to me because I've had a lot of success publishing in the last few years, and I still don't teach creative writing classes.
Well, may I jump in there? I know you publish poetry. You have these chapbooks. You have Southern Atheist, Oh Honey. You have The Skin Song, and also Gulp. These are your... hold them up proudly. But are you also publishing academic in journals, or this is your publishing?
This is my publishing right now.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I focused on the creative aspect. So with the PhD, actually, I'm working one-on-one with an amazing woman who's my mentor. The program's very interesting. It's very project-based, and because I already have a doctorate, they're not making me do all the coursework again, and I can kind of just leap into this project and start working. And so she suggested that I write a book that is like a craft book on experiential learning in the writing classroom.
All right. So it's a project of love as well as trying to get a PhD with it.
Yes.
So it's something you really will care about and can publish. And it will be a useful textbook kind of text, but not an academic-y, high-level ivory tower kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yes.
All right,
Yeah,
this
there's
is
a writer named he's well known in the writing education community. His name's Peter Elbow, and he has written some books. There's one that's called Writing Without Teachers. There's one called Everyone Can Write. I'm trying to remember if it's anyone or everyone. I think it's Everyone Can Write. But he's also known essentially as the founder of the concept of free writing. And
oh
so the first thing I'm doing in this program, my mentor suggested some of his books, and I'm just reading them to see if I like the way that he writes in this essay style that's
yeah.
constructive and prescriptive, but also very anecdotal. And I'm about halfway through one book right now, and I'm definitely enjoying it. So we shall
Well,
see.
we should expect Peter Elbow to give you a hand. I'm getting this. It's a joke. Anyway, we're talking with DEVON Fulford here. She is a professor. She's also obviously a poetry book writer. So take us to the moment that you learned your first book. Was that Southern Atheist, Oh Honey? Was that
Yes.
you knew it was going to get published?
Oh, this is such a thank you for asking about
Oh,
this.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is a fun story. So the publisher that ended up publishing this book, I had submitted some individual poems to, and they published them in their online journal. And a few weeks, I think maybe just a week, or I don't remember exactly the timeline. This was actually in 2020. It was in December of 2020. Not long after the poems were published in their journal, they knew that they were part of a full chapbook and they asked for the full manuscript. It's like the writer's dream, to actually have a publisher ask for the manuscript, and that's what happened. So I sent them the full manuscript, and it took about a month of waiting and biting my nails all day long and just sitting on pins and needles. And then one evening, I got the email. It was on a Saturday and it was in the evening. So a very strange time when you won't expect to necessarily hear that your first book will be published. But yeah, I
Anytime,
will definitely
anytime. You can wake me up at 3:48 in the morning, right?
please do.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, so Mazel. So can I ask, like, do you have a favorite poem of yours of all time that
Of
you?
mine?
Yeah,
Oh boy.
one that you're proudest of, whether it was the first one that you completed, first one got published, or one last week. I don't know.
Really hard question. I don't think I've ever been asked that. I mean, there's a poem, it's in both. So the Skin Song is kind of like a pamphlet, and it's only 16 poems. But all 16 of these poems are in gold.
Oh,
And
okay.
so but the titular poem, The Skin Song, is in gold. And I would say that, I mean, that poem really means a lot to me. I got to read it at a poetry reading in Fort Collins, just about, let's see, I guess about 2 months ago now. And it's set in Fort Collins. It was about a very, very challenging time in my life. And being able to read it aloud in that setting was weirdly cathartic in ways I wasn't expecting. So that was fun. That was cool.
Was this, and feel free if you don't want to talk about, but you've had some health issues. I mean, serious stuff over the past year or two or three.
Yeah.
How are you? What was it? How are you?
I'm okay. I'm not yet in what they call remission. I have a really peculiar and fairly rare autoimmune disorder called pemphigus vulgaris, which is the most disgusting name, but it's fair because it's a fully disgusting disease. It's a blistering disorder. And it first came out in my gums. I was having all this problem in my gums, and so at first went to the dentist. They didn't know what it was. They sent me to a periodontal specialist. They didn't know what it was. Um, my normal, PCP didn't know what it was. I had a holistic doctor who couldn't identify it. I was just going through all these doctors, and it was just getting worse and worse. So it started coming out of my skin. I had lesions on my scalp. My back was just like, I felt like a leper. It was like raw flesh. It was so awful
Was
and
it painful or just unsightly?
unbelievably painful. So it comes up in tiny little blisters that itch like crazy. And if you scratch them and break them, they spread. And then they're super, super painful. And not having the diagnosis was absolutely the worst part. That was terrifying.
Yeah.
And from the time I started presenting with symptoms until I got my diagnosis was almost a full year. I finally had my holistic doctor recommend, like nothing we were doing was working. I did blood testing for food allergies and on a super restrictive diet. And I mean, I did all kinds of different stuff. And eventually he sent me to a dermatologist who did a biopsy and was able to identify what it was that way. And then for my treatment, she sent me to a rheumatologist. So my care team is just, enormous with all these people on it. But I do infusions now. There's a particular infusion. I only have to get it once every 6 months. I get it 2 times, 2 weeks apart, but only every 6 months. So that's not the worst.
It's not blood or plasma. So what are they getting? What are they putting in you there?
It's a drug called Rituxan, and they use it for lymphoma treatment. It deeply suppresses your immune system. So it's the only FDA approved treatment for my disease. And yeah,
So do you have to be in this is not a joke. Do you have to be in like a bubble for a week or two because you have no immune system? Or you have to be in a hospital? What?
So I don't have to be in a hospital. The first year I was doing treatment, I actually had an accommodation through the university to just teach remotely. So it was really hard for me. I actually ended up getting another full-time job that was remote as well, but I hated not being in the classroom. That was awful for me. So as of last fall, I went back into the classroom. So this past year was my first year back. I'm just super careful. I do a lot to supplement and support my immune system. So I don't get sick. I don't tend to get sick much anyhow, but I try to.
Well, actually, one thing I also noticed from your website is that you were involved on some level with the Parkinson's Disease Foundation. That is not personal, or is that familiar, or you just want to help this group?
Yeah, so that was actually the other full-time remote position I took. I was the director of content and education at a local Parkinson's organization here in Colorado called the Davis Finney Foundation. And wonderful, wonderful foundation. Davis Finney is a former Olympic bike rider who has Parkinson's, and he's a lovely human. I mean, honestly, everyone I met in the Parkinson's community is just amazing. Yeah, it was tough. It was a tough role. I didn't love working remotely, honestly. It was a big thing for me to be able to be in a classroom and be there present with students. I wasn't getting to do the same teaching either. I like managing people. I like directing content. I like creating content, but my heart is in teaching, and so I'm glad to be back.
Well, let me ask then, when you try and teach, do you teach any poetry classes? I mean,
I have taught. They're considered a literature course, but I have taught like the intro to poetry course before.
How do you teach writing? If that's part of it, if they have a chance to write and submit. I mean, what do you? It's one thing to say. A story doesn't make sense, or things are misspelled. But if they're saying it doesn't rhyme, it's not supposed to rhyme, it doesn't scan, it's not supposed to scan. How do you critique?
Depends on the assignment, I think, or a project, I should say. They all have different parameters, but I teach, I would say maybe topical based. To start, I like students to have a lot of agency in what they do. And so they get to pick topics like almost for everything in all the classes I teach, the upper division comp, the lower division composition, all the classes, they get a lot of choice because writing is hard and it's not something people enjoy doing for the most part. And it's not something people even really work to do well. And I mean, with the onslaught perhaps of AI technology.
Oh, the word, you use the letters. Oh, yeah.
No, I'm sorry. If something bursts into flames, I won't be surprised.
All right, I'm literally going to redirect you there because as a professor who's getting essays and things from people in your other English classes, I mean, where do you draw the line? What do you allow? What don't you allow? Because it's Meshuggah at this point to say you can't use AI. What can and can't they do?
So they cannot simply generate content with AI. They cannot plug in a prompt and have it spit something back out and use that as their own. So I actually, I just encountered it this week. There's a wonderful essay that I give all my upper division students. It's by Anne Lamott, who is also a great writer and writer on writing. There's an essay called Shitty First Drafts in her book, Bird by Bird. And the students love it. I mean, largely because it has shitty in the title. Obviously, that's very exciting.
I love it. Yeah.
But it's a wonderful essay. It's not very long, and it essentially is advice from a professional writer telling fledgling writers, just get it on the page. Just brain dump, like just do it. Just get it out. And I just, last week, I had students read and work on a discussion on this. And I had a student plug in, and I mean, it's...
How could you tell? I mean, AI is getting so good now that it's not so simple as, oh, there you go. It's got the threes, this, and this, and this. How do you tell?
I've been reading human writing for so long, it's actually not really that hard for me to differentiate. I know the way students write. I know the cadence of their writing. And it was so obvious when I was reading through this post that essentially they had just said to the AI chatbot, what is the purpose of Anne Lamott's essay, Shitty First Drafts? And so I plugged that in to ChatGPT. And she had pulled verbatim phrasing from it. So it wasn't even hard for me to figure out the prompt they put into. So it's something obviously that we're constantly thinking about in the university, in the academy. There's workshops all the time. There's trainings, Some people have a really hard line about like, you cannot use it for anything ever or you will fail. I agree with you. I don't think that's feasible or realistic at all. A way I do permit students to use it, for instance, I teach a website building project. And with some of the free website platforms, they will have AI generate like the layout or imagery, but they have to be honest about that. They have to say this, this was created by whatever machine.
Layout doesn't bother me. It's such a slippery. It's saying it changes every year, every 6 months. So how is academia now? I know you can't. There's certain things you probably can't say, but you still want to keep your job and get renewed until you get tenure. So, no, seriously. But with the administration, with the ICE, with everything, are you guys just running scared?
I would say the spring semester, well, let's say the fall semester last year definitely closed on a very uncomfortable note with a lot of uncertainty. And then coming into spring, there was absolutely a lot of fear on campus. People not knowing what to expect, people not knowing if they're going to be punished, for lack of a better word, for simply being, honestly. I mean, the one personal story that I have about this that's just heartbreaking to me, I had in my introductory composition class I taught this spring, I had a Hispanic student who dropped out and went back home to Arkansas because they were just verklempt about it. They thought you'd like that one.
No, I thought you were going to say they were shipped back by ICE to some country. They just went to Arkansas.
Well, their parents,
which is worse than most countries anyway. But yes.
Exactly. I know. This is why it's so sad. Their parents were so terrified they hadn't left their house in weeks. So the student had to drop out of school and go back to Arkansas to take care of their parents and just like they were the oldest child. I think there were three children in the family, if I remember right. And they had to go be the adult at 18 years old. And it just was awful.
Yeah, I'm not even an adult now. I play one on TV, essentially. Right? We've been talking with Devon Fulford. She is the author of three books of poetry. Southern Atheist, Oh Honey. It's like something, I know that sounds confusing. It's Southern Atheist with a colon in the middle. Oh Honey, the Skin Song, and then also Gulp, although everything in Gulp is in the Skin Song, so you're quite honest.
Other way around.
Oh, everything in the Skin Song is in Gulp. So really, if you're Jewish, you're not going to be spending money on but let's talk very quickly to finish this out, some positive and fun stuff about your life. You're married for a few years, yes?
I have a partner. We're not technically married, but we.
Living in sin. Oi, oi, oi. How dare you? So, how long have you been with this partner person?
Over 14 years.
Mazel. So you're one of these free people and you're never going to put a ring on it, or is that what? No.
No. Right. See, this is what I'm saying about my punk rock ethos. I don't believe in traditional marriage for the most part. I don't believe in traditional a lot of things.
All right. Well, is he your first line of, like, when you write a new poem or something, do you show it to him, or is he like the last person that you want to show it to strangers first?
That's a great question. It's been both. It's not consistent. I write kind of in a bubble. I kind of isolate myself, and I don't often show what I'm working on to anyone. And I've written a lot in the past year. I actually have a fourth book coming out soon, and I have a full-length manuscript and 2 other chapbook manuscripts under consideration right now. So I have written so much, and I actually have been challenging myself to share more of my poetry. So I've been making some kind of aesthetically pleasing posts on Facebook where I'll pick a poem and I'll couple it with a wonderful photo and share it there. But one of the chapbooks is actually kind of a love poetry, and it's all about my partner. So I did share some of that with him recently.
Oh, mit Mazel Miklik. This is, and what does he do? I'm curious. What is he also a teacher person or what?
No, probably one of the reasons we complement each other well. He has worked in finance. His background, actually, he got 2 bachelor's degrees from UNC in finance and economics, and he's been working in financial systems for the last while. So he has a job. He works from home. Yeah, he loves it. He's happy with what he does.
And this allows you to write poetry. So, and also, one other question. A lot of time you pose or do things, you still go on like motorcycles and go. Aren't you afraid of those things?
I am not.
Not afraid of tattoos, not afraid of motorcycles. You're not Jewish. It's very, very obviously that you are not Jewish. But you are delightful and so talented and so creative and so important as an educator. Ladies and gentlemen, Devon Fulford, please get her book. Oh, do you have a website? It's definwords.com.
Yep.
DEF, which is not like your name. What is
Those
that?
Those are my initials.
Wait, D-E. Oh, what is the I-N then? DEF.
So like Devon Elizabeth Fulford in words.
Oh, Def in words. I get it now. I spent all night puzzling that out. I got no sleep. DEFIN words.com to find out how to buy your books, because of different publishers, to find out, to see, read some of the things you're writing, your resume and what you're doing. First of all, I wish you tenure. It's a while, but God willing, Bezras Hashem, I wish you good health. That is even more important than anything else. Love with your partner, love of what you're doing, more and more creativity. Devon Fulford, thank you so much for being with us in the neighborhood.
You betcha. Thank you so much for having me.
Shalom to you.